We're here at Kendal Mountain Festival in the presence of greatness. Toby Roberts, the first British male to qualify for climbing in the Olympics. So we're going to talk a little bit about your past, present and future. And I guess to begin with, I mean, how did you start climbing?
So I started climbing at like an after-school club. My parents weren't climbers. I put my name down on the list to go after school. I had like a science teacher who was really into his climbing, and he sort of egged me on to give it a go. And ever since that moment where I stepped foot in like the school hall with like a small little climbing wall at the end of it, I just got hooked. I got the bug, and yeah, from that point on, I just kept doing it.
What was it about climbing? Because I mean, where you grew up as well in like the south of England, it's not exactly like, how shall I put this politely? For the record, I grew up in the south of England. It's not a hotbed of climbing activity.
Yeah, the south of England, to be honest, it's been an absolute nightmare. It's been so hard. We've had the amount of long journeys up to the north to get the training in has been so hard. So yeah, starting climbing there wasn't like the most gyms around, but I just loved it so much that it didn't really matter to me where I was. I just loved sort of climbing.
And to begin with, because I mean, I feel like we're dealing with such a compressed time scale with you, because you're 18 now, and when you were 10, you became the youngest person to Red Point 8A, Rain Dogs. Yeah. I think that is a correct thing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how did you get to that point? At that point, were you up to the point of the age of 10? Were you training? Were you just climbing to have fun? Like, what was the balance?
In the early stages, I was literally just climbing to have fun. I loved climbing. I still love climbing, obviously. And yeah, Rain Dogs being my first ever sort of big project, to like grab the chains of that was a surreal moment.
How long did it take you at the time?
Rain Dogs, I can't actually remember. It was so long. It feels so long ago now. But obviously the extension to that is Rain Shadow, which is another route I put a lot of work into as I got a bit older.
And you did that a few years later, because I was at Malham around the time that Will did it when he was 17.
Yeah.
And you did it aged, I think, was it 16 or 15?
Yeah, 15, I think.
And
even that feels like a long time ago now.
It was, I guess. Yeah. And, so in between Rain Dogs and Rain Shadow, did something change there? Were you just still like ballooning around, having the time of your life, no real structure to training, or like, you know, had something changed? Just because I've been climbing quite a few years now, and I've actually failed to Red Point Rain Dogs, and Rain Shadow's sort of lack of consequence. It's not, you know, most people don't progress this quickly without.
Yeah, well, when I was 15, I had more of a structure to my training, but still, I loved climbing, and all of my climbing, if not most of my climbing training, was just climbing and going to the crag, enjoying it. And I did Rain Shadow during lockdown, or like in and around that sort of time where the training wasn't readily like sort of available. So it was so nice just to go to the cove and be able to put some effort into like something that hard.
And I mean, we focused on the outdoors just there, but like you obviously were competing as a junior climber as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about the highs and lows throughout that?
So I've competed my whole life, ever since my first ever time in a climbing centre when I was 8 years old was a climbing competition. That was the YCS, first round of that. So I've gone through all of the YCS sort of rounds, all through E and D, those categories. I've gone, countless amounts of like European competitions, and I just absolutely love it. I love the buzz I get from competition climbing.
In the climb session earlier on, you were sat on the sofa with Shauna Coxsey, and what I really liked as well, because Shauna is obviously, I guess, at the other end of her comp climbing career. She's sort of, you know, moved out and away from that. Yeah. But your unrelenting psyche for training, climbing, it's like every day is a flipping new day. And Shauna, I think, was a little bit more philosophical about, so we say the bad days and the ebbs and flow of psyche.
I just love training. I love like really putting in the hard work. Sometimes just getting to the end of the day and just feeling absolutely shattered, like that for me is almost sometimes more rewarding than the actual competitions. I love just pushing myself sort of like to that limit. It's like really satisfying for me.
And I guess then moving from juniors into seniors as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of people have real hard time moving from one to the other because there is just such a step up. And we were mentioning actually Jim Pope earlier on, and he's someone actually who has made that transition. But the thing that he said when I've spoken to him in recent years has been that, so he's climbing better than he has ever climbed in his life. And yet in competitions, he's coming back with poorer performances. And the reason being is that the standard right now is unbelievable.
I mean, absolutely. Like the level each year is just getting higher and higher and higher. The setters are like having to push boundaries in all sorts of different ways just to try and get like separation between the climbers. People are just getting so strong. So coming up through the youth, it can be quite daunting, like stepping onto the senior mats and then, playing with all the big dogs suddenly. But for me, what was really important to like not let that get to me was just to remember that I'm doing this like for myself. I love climbing. It's no different, and just to go out on the mats and just climb, because it's no different to anything else I've been doing before.
I mean, it must be weird stepping onto the mats with the likes of, say, Adam Ondra.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talked a little bit about Adam earlier. When we spoke to Will, he'd mentioned Adam as well as being both a role model, but also just this fantastic and positive ambassador almost as well.
Yeah, well, all of these top guys, which I've been watching since I was a kid. What's apparent like when you get on the scene is that they're all just so nice. Like climbers, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone loves climbing. Everyone loves competing who goes to competitions. Whether you're outdoor climbing, indoor climbing, everyone just is there for sort of the same reasons. So regardless of the level, everyone's so supportive. So that was really nice to come onto the scene and for them to almost just be like a father figure almost.
Do you want to talk a bit about how your season went maybe? And also maybe before we get onto that, how you prepped for the season as well? Because I'm aware we joke about how inconvenient the south of England is, but the impression I get is that you didn't necessarily train all the time in the south of England. You went out to Innsbruck and I guess further north to say Sheffield and the various other walls around there.
Yeah, before my first like international season, there was a hard winter before that of like really hard training, like a lot of weights, a lot of that sort of stuff, the real conditioning to get your body like ready for the season. And then as I come into like January, February time, I tried to get abroad. I spent a lot of time in Innsbruck with my dad.
Which is, I mean, it is a mind-blowing facility, isn't it?
Innsbruck is incredible. We seriously need an Innsbruck in the UK.
I remember when I first went to see Innsbruck and they were talking about how much they'd invested in it, and they saw it as an investment because of the fact that, well, you've only got to look at how big Austria is and how, well, look at the likes of Jakob and, you know, the long lineage of top-end competitors that they've got to realise that if you invest in the infrastructure, the athletes, they're training in that exact same environment that they're going to be competing in.
Yeah, exactly. So we sort of realised that you can either sit in the UK and sort of complain about it, or you can get out to Innsbruck and then really make use of those facilities. So it was just, I can't stress how important it was getting out to Innsbruck and like these crazy facilities before my season. It's just such a help.
I feel like at this point we need to do a shout out for your dad, Tristan, not least because he's sat just there out of camera, but also because you know, the other side of every competitor is their support team as well. And I'm guessing you need a belayer, you need like
taxi,
a pep talk. Yeah. I'm not sure how his physio is, but you know.
It's improving. What's really important is to be able to just fully focus on the climbing. You don't want to go into a competition and have so many things to take care of in your mind. You just want to be able to go and focus, and that's what I'm so like. My dad is just such a, he fully supports me, and I know that he's got my best interests at heart. So I can just go out and focus on the climbing, and I know that in the background he'll
take the rest of the stress on his shoulders.
I'm so grateful for for everything he does. Yeah.
And tell me about your coach as well.
My coach is my dad, surprisingly. Taxi. Coach, just everything. It's so nice to have that relationship with my dad. Like now that he's properly sort of established as my coach.
Does he charge competitive rates as well?
Yeah. It comes at a price. Yeah. There's a big bill waiting for me when I turn the appropriate age. I'm guessing. I'm joking. But yeah, it's so nice to have my dad as my coach. We got a good relationship, and I sort of trust. That he's got my best interests at heart, and that's why I think it works so well.
Should we talk a bit about this season and how it went? Because again, like a lot of these things,
Yeah,
it
roller
started
coaster.
was a bit of a roller coaster, but then, I mean, it really went. I mean, it ended with a bang.
Yeah. So my season started in Hachioji for the first Boulder World Cup, and I ended this just outside the semi-final, which my first ever senior international World Cup. I was pretty gutted not to be in the semi-final after all of that training, but I knew that I had to keep confidence. You can't let one bad result or not so good result get to you, otherwise the next ones will just be the same. So I took Hachioji, I really learned from that, and then my next few comps I started to see huge improvements.
I mean, it felt like there was real momentum.
Yeah,
being
momentum
built,
was
and
a big
every
thing.
single one, it felt like it was just building and building and building. But the thing that we could tell as from an audience perspective was just you were just having it. You were having the time of your life. And you've only got to look at some of the highlights to see the look on your face as you top routes or boulders are just you're just in your element, and the crowd were fully backing you.
The progression through the season has been incredible. Like you said, I love being in that environment. Like when the crowd's behind you, you're on the wall, you're fighting hard, you're giving everything. That's my favorite place to be, and to sort of find that so many times in the season, that moment is just feels incredible.
And so it was all going well. Obviously, Olympic qualifying sort of started to come onto the horizon. And I guess Bern is probably the logical place to start there. That ironically didn't go to plan, and it wasn't, I'm sure, in the plan that you had that season, because everything was going so well, and then this, I guess it was, the pressure is on, isn't it?
Yeah. At the start of the season, there was no expectation, no pressure. First ever international season. No one's looking at you. You can go out there. You're enjoying the blocks. No one's really fussed about you. And then when you suddenly get a couple of good results, then, which happened for me before the Bern World Champs, suddenly when I went out to the Bern World Champs, I was like, oh gosh, there's people who are expecting me to get a certain place. If I don't make semis, then it's going to be a surprise for some people, and that was really hard, because I started climbing. I wasn't flowing. I was really in a cage. I was almost had pressure on my shoulders suddenly, which wasn't a problem earlier in the season, and it really showed in Bern.
It's hard, I guess, isn't it? Because you want to treat those competitions almost as play still. You want to have that fluid movement that you have, just when you're having fun. But when something as big as the Olympics comes on, and also, I guess the sooner you qualify for the Olympics, just the better it is, isn't it? You do not want to leave it for the qualifier 8 weeks before, because it would just be mind-bendingly stressful. But you bounced back from that, obviously, didn't you?
Yeah, bouncing back from Bern was, I'm really happy with how it went after Bern. So we sort of established, after that, I was 4 holds away from getting the Olympic ticket in Bern. I was pretty beat down after Bern. We went away, we established what went wrong, and realised that you just got to go out and enjoy it, man. I love climbing. What's the point in putting all that pressure on yourself? So the 2 months after Bern was just filled with really enjoyable trainings, cool trips to Paris, Innsbruck, good coaching team. It was all a laugh, and I was able to go out in Laval, fully enjoy it, and that's when the best results come. And to get the ticket there, just it still doesn't feel real. So I'm really happy.
I mean, where do we start with this? What's the first question I ask? The first one is a silly one, but how does it feel to finish ahead of Adam Ondra? I mean, because Adam is, he's Adam Ondra, he's the greatest of all time. And then when Toby Roberts is sort of there, just above Adam Ondra, does it just feel like a weird dream or something?
Yeah, it's really strange. I've watched Ondra and Schubert throughout my whole life. I've watched them on the World Cup scene. I've always aspired to compete alongside them, and to be in that suddenly competitive against them, I'm just living my dream. It feels so good.
You have to pinch yourself at times.
Yeah, it's oh, this is real.
God.
We got some photos of me and Ondra, and I'm just a kid. Yeah. I remember that was a Westway climb event where he came, and it was at the Westway. He sort of came and did a feature climb, and I was like, oh my God, it's Adam Ondra.
And back then when you met him, could you have ever dreamed? Dreamed?
I mean, it was a dream. It wasn't a goal at that time. It was just a dream. And for that to slowly progress throughout all of the years for it to suddenly become like a goal and then a reality at the end of this season. I just keep pinching myself, like I'm not dreaming.
And I guess then secondary to that, how did it feel to qualify for the Olympics?
There's not many words to describe it. Like, I think the best way to describe it is the video at the end of after that final climb.
Let's go, Toby! Let's go!
Of this noise.
There's his dad.
Even they look happy.
There's Toby's dad. Well,
what a moment.
That's what I wanted to see.
I cannot wait to see that picture.
And I tell you what, just to shout out Tristan, he travels the world with Toby. He's his
like coming down, screaming my head off, like jumping around the place, giving my dad a massive hug. The coach is going crazy. Like that video encapsulates years and years and years of hard work and dedication to get to that point. And yeah, getting the ticket there, oh man, it's just a perfect storytell ending.
And you've come, I feel, like a particularly good time. It's Paris 2024, they've obviously separated out speed into the combined format, which features both lead and boulder. So I guess my next question would be like, what happens now then? Back into the cellar, back into the training wall again?
Yeah, on the speed note, like I'm very happy speed was taken out. I'm happy for Shauna. She took the brunt of that Olympic decision, but yeah, now it's separated out. I think it's a lot better for the sport. The speed climbers didn't want to do lead and boulder, and the lead and boulderers don't want to do speed climbing. But yeah, now with the Olympics on the horizon, like it feels like a long way away, beginning of August, but it's not really. Like I'm gonna take a bit of rest and recovery time in November, and then December it's like hard training, like starts again. I've got 2 months planned in Sheffield.
You're probably more psyched for that to begin than you are the rest. How are you
training.
with rest?
I'm not so good with rest. I find it really hard to stay away from climbing. Like since I've been back, it's been like if I spend 2 days without climbing, I just get the itch to go again. So I think we're planning on going somewhere where I physically can't get to a climbing center, so I can just fully relax and get ready for training. It's going to be hard, but when I get back, I'm going to be ready to give it everything for like 2 months of hard base training, and then after the base training, it's all the then the trips start and like the nice part of it.
I guess I was going to ask. We were talking, amongst the UKC team as to whether or not you're looking to do any competitions next year, because obviously it's good to have little sharpeners, but you don't want those sharpeners to become a drain in the lead up to Paris, because I'm assuming that Paris is ultimately like the priority number one.
Yeah. So I also, whilst I don't want to do too many competitions, I also don't want to do too few. Like I really love competing. Like I love competing, so I don't want to go without any competitions until Paris. So the plan is to do all my training and then do the World Cups at the start of the season. Even though I might not be in like peak form at that point, I'm not really fast. I just want to go out and then get myself in some World Cups and just enjoy them, and then that's like a solid part of my training for the Olympics.
And I feel like this is a really impossible question to ask you, because given that Paris is like the huge thing it is, asking you about what you're going to do after that just seems totally ridiculous. But we're here, we're interviewing you, and ridiculous feels like it's part of our memo. But do you have plans to get back outdoors? Because the way I've often looked at like people like Andre, he uses like these big comps, big events as almost like training blocks to then unleash upon the outdoors.
Yeah, so I'm holding back from the outdoors until the Olympics. Like it's hard, but once I find I focus on something, I just fully focus on that. So right now that's the Olympics for me. But after the Olympics, oh man, I'm psyched just to get everywhere and just climb outdoors just wherever I can. I've got projects lined up like all around the world. I just want to get out and then use, like you said, like Andre does, I just want to use the form that I'll have coming off the back of the Olympics and then just go out and try and go on like a rampage.
The really interesting thing that came up in the Future of Hard Bouldering session was that as a comp climber, you need like a really broad skill set. Like you've got to become an all-rounder, because you need to be able to cope with anything that the route setters present. When you actually step away from comp climbing, or when you're just having a well-deserved rest after Paris 2024, you can actually hone in on like just sort of specialisms or particular things you enjoy. So what would be top of your list, do you think?
Well, I've put a bit of time into Perfectamundo. I love that route. I really want to try that. I've never really outdoor bouldered before. It's as surprising as it sounds. I've never really done that. It's just not really.
You should try it. It's
yeah, I'm psyched.
activity.
Yeah, I want to just get out and then try some really hard boulders like Magic Wood, Fontainebleau, as well as there's just so much stuff I want to do. It'll be hard to list it all.
This is another question we've asked, of Will, which is, are there any other climbers who are particularly like impressing you or like inspiring you at the moment?
Jakob Schubert.
The man.
Jakob Schubert, for me, he's been the most impressive person this season. I think like what he's done has been incredible. Like to be at that age, having competed your whole career, to come out at the Bern World Champs and execute like that and just pretty much dominate the competition was really, really impressive. As I've spent some time training with him, and like I've seen him in Innsbruck, and he's a really nice guy as well. So yeah, he's a great guy, and he's incredibly strong.
The thing that has always impressed me with Jakob is that when it feels like something happens when the competition starts and he goes into beast mode, it's like he just turns it up another notch, and he uses all of that pressure into something positive.
I think
brings out the best in him.
That's really like an acquired skill. I think to start with, pressure and stuff can also sometimes weigh you down, but once you learn to turn that pressure into like then you know how to come out and execute your route. That's when you become dangerous. And I think Jakob really showed that. Like when he came out for his final route in Bern, like he looked like
he topped the route before he stepped onto it.
Yeah, he looked scary. Like he was. But yeah, that was really impressive to see.
Well, Toby, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I just can't wait until Paris 2024 to see you on like the big screen doing your thing, and hopefully just having the time of your life.
Yeah, I can't wait to get there.